Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good evening. Welcome to the law and how government is screwing you over by violating it. I'm Gavin Syme, and on this channel, we talk about activism, we talk about rights, we talk about constitutions, but most importantly, we talk about standing up for something. And today, I really thought we should talk about this latest trend in the United States. There is a new criminal trend of violation of fundamental rights coming from the government that is truly shocking. This is something that we see in movies. It's something we see in histories under dictatorships, in regimes like in North Korea. And it's the idea that we punish the fathers or the mothers, the parents, the families of people who commit crimes or who are accused of crimes by the government. The latest case we're seeing on this is the Apalachee High School shooting. Now, I'm not going to get into the shooting itself, because I understand that when people lose loved ones, like the grief they're going through, I really do sympathize with it. And so I don't want to get off on tangents. I want to focus on the law here. Absolutely abominable precedent that government is creating and that news agencies are promoting. You got to remember that it used to be that reporters and news agencies, they investigated, they reported, they talked about facts. Now they repeat what the government wants to create a new narrative. Now we have this whole new narrative coming into place. And that new narrative
scheduled for you. Why don't you just state your name, please? All right, pull the microphone down, please. There you go. All right.
That new narrative is that the parents can be charged for the crimes of the children, held without bail, locked in a cell, have everything in their life destroyed. This isn't the first time either. We saw this last year when both the parents of Ethan Crumbley were sentenced to prison for the crime of their son. I want you, before you buy into the propaganda, because if you go to the comments, you really see people buying into this. Age is an excuse for a heinous crime. He was warned a year ago to keep guns away from his son. He is liable because the FBI told him his son made threats. This should be an eye-opener for parents. This should be an eye-opener for all of us. Because what's next is not just the parents, it's punishing entire families for the crimes of one person or for the violations of one person. This is what North Korea is known to do to keep their people in line. Now, it's important to understand, we talk about the law on this channel. And before we go on, I just want to say that it is a fundamental principle of law that the children or families or relatives or associates of a person are not punished for the crimes of another. This is one of the most basic things. Only the most draconian dictatorships do this. In fact, oftentimes people will say, oh, in biblical times, justice was really cruel. But actually, if you go to the Bible, and regardless of whether you believe the Bible or not, like you can go this far back. You can go to Deuteronomy in the law. You can go to Ezekiel. The soul that sinneth shall not die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, or the father the son. Everyone is responsible for their own crimes. This is even in the Bible. Now, this is further affirmed. If we go to the Constitution, this isn't actually an article in the Constitution. It didn't need to be, because it was such a basic concept in justice. Now, aside from all the fact that we have people that are charged multiple times for the same crime, there's double jeopardy, they're given multiple trials constantly in our courts. We see this even in non-violent crime cases like Rick Gerber, where they tried him how many? 3-4 times until they finally got a conviction so they could put him in prison because they wanted to silence him. But let's actually go to the 9th Amendment. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. The Constitution, this is an important fundamental law. U.S. Constitution, the U.S. Constitution of Mexico, in Mexico, these don't give anybody rights. Rights are inherent. They're human. Right? So this was actually the debate in writing the Bill of Rights. Hey, if we enumerate these rights, the politicians and an ignorant society is going to assume these are the only rights we have. That's why the 9th Amendment was put there. because the Constitution isn't granting any rights. It's affirming that these are restrictions on government. It's also a direct violation of Article in the 8th. Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. There is absolutely no question in any sort of historical record going back thousands of years that punishing parents or family members or friends for the crimes of another person is cruel and unusual punishment. It is a direct violation of the Constitution and of the fundamental basics of human rights. But when you go to the comments, look at the comments. Parents needed to be parents, not friends. Dad gave his child a high-powered rifle. I wouldn't give my kids a BB gun, right? All of these people following the story. Now, people might say, oh, well, you're not allowed to buy a gun for a minor. Well, that's usually not the case, but also, i.e. Second Amendment, the government has no right to restrict who you buy a gun for. That concept is also completely unconstitutional. It's like if we said someone committed a crime driving a car because they were reckless or they intentionally hurt someone driving a car. Let's punish the car dealership. Let's punish the parents who bought their son a car. You have to understand, this never ends. These psychopaths who want to rape you and then convince you through news media propaganda that this is law, so you will say, oh yeah, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? What were they thinking? What are you thinking if you misunderstand human rights and law and our constitutions on such a basic level? You could make arguments like, oh, he knew his son had problems. Let's analyze a slice of this without getting into the whole chasm of it. The U.S. has a society where we tell parents they need to send their kids to government schools that are actually designed and built much like prisons, where they're taught to submit, where they're confused by constant political ideologies and discords, where they're bullied. Then those kids go to counselors when they have problems. They are then prescribed medications that have often devastating effects that are actually documented in the listed side effects of many of the medications that were being given for things like depression. The family starts to lose control, things spiral, and everything goes bad. Then when everything goes bad, we turn and we say to the parents, oh, they bought the car. Put them in prison too. That'll make us feel better, right? They bought the gun. Put them in prison too. They let them get the gun. They let them enter the house where the gun was. Where does it stop? They let them enter a neighbor's house where the gun was. You see, what they're actually doing is they're trying to use absolute fear so you won't even teach your kids their fundamental rights. You won't even take your kids out shooting and get them a gun for their 16th birthday. You won't even teach them self-defense because they will create so much fear through this that families, parents, and eventually even friends, you will be afraid to even support people's rights. So then people ask, wait, how's that work? So more propaganda is made where lawyers spin words, and if you actually listen, they don't even have any bearing or reality in law and constitution.
Or anything like that.
But how can authorities charge Colin Gray if he didn't pull the trigger? Travis Griffin explains it as transferred intent. For example, if someone helps commit a robbery that results in a homicide, the co-conspirator could be charged with murder, even if they didn't pull the trigger.
It's essentially the same transferred intent.
Transferred intent. These are BS invented words that criminal judges and prosecutors are using to say these are now law to get ignorant members of society to say, well, he should have known that. That's the law. It's not the law. This is the law. Your rights are the law. And it's really important, perhaps now more than ever, that people start to understand that. You can go to prison for the crimes of your children right now, today, in 2024. That will only expand if it is tolerated. It will expand to other family members, to friends, to anything eventually, because they will not stop. Colin Gray, the father of Colt Gray, was not participating in a crime. It's truly heartbreaking to watch justice and despotism come to this level. And I know there will be commenters in the comments that he should have done this, he should have known. No, that is not how law works. The law doesn't get to punish you for what we think you should have known, for whether we think you were a good enough parent. If we're going to do that, let's look at all the people that provoked the condition of this young man in the first place? All the politicians, all the school administrators, why aren't they being charged? You see, this is a flim-flam. This is a scam of words and manipulation of laws with the intent of screwing you over with law. Or we should say screwing you over by manipulating the law to violate its fundamental intent. I'm Gavin Syme, and this is the law. Peace.